What's up, guys? Jaxel here. Little update. The parts came in for me to create more Dreamcast adapters, so they are now back in stock on my Etsy shop. And I want to put a short video together showing how to update the firmware because compatibility for different controllers does get added periodically. The firmware, great firmware written by someone on the Dreamcast Talk forums, Megavolt85. He's doing a fantastic job with the firmware and keeping it all update and working through all the bugs. So things are going great. Lots of credit to him, Megavolt85. But I want to put this video together. And as you can see, there are two versions of the adapter. We got the basic one here, and I got what I'm calling the plus version over here. Now, the basic one, I got another one right here, is just a USB port with the adapter right into Dreamcast. And this will allow you to plug in a modern controller, such as a PS5 controller, into your Dreamcast. Because I don't know about you, I'm not actually a fan of the Dreamcast controller, except the analog stick. The analog stick is great. Analog stick on modern controllers is kind of shit. But other than that, modern controllers I like more than the Dreamcast controller. So this is just basic USB into Dreamcast. Now, what you can do with this is plug in a USB hub and then plug a flash drive into that hub and then use this as a VMU. But that isn't included in this. It's just USB into Dreamcast. Very basic. Now, the Plus version has the USB hub built in. So I have an SD card plugged in right here. Let's unplug that right there. Right, that goes into the USB hub and the SD card adapter. And you can see it also has a screen built in and a speaker in the back. So it's got all the niceties of a VMU built directly into it. So you don't have to have all the, the octopus or squid of cables hanging out of it. It's all there in a single unit. And I'm calling this the Plus version, which is also in my Etsy shop. It's significantly more expensive. So if you want to keep things cheaper, you just get the basic one. So let's head to the Dreamcast itself. I've got 240p test suite running on it. There it is. And here I got my PlayStation 5 controller plugged in, and you can see it's controlling it. And let's go to the Maple device list. And we can see our two controllers. We got the first one plugged into slot A, and then the second one plugged into slot D. And you can see the Dreamcast controller has two accessory ports. So the first accessory port is usually for your VMU, and that's the clock, LCD, and memory card. And then the second accessory port is the vibration pack, which they call the jump pack. Now, this is a PS4-5 controller, so it has the jump pack built in. So that's why it's registered. Same thing here. What I have is let's head back to the camera right here. This is a PS4 wireless adapter. So let's turn my PS4 controller on. And if we go to the controller test screen, you can see I'm using the PS4 controller here and the PS5 controller here. Everything you can see works. Now with the Dreamcast controller, with the USB4Maple firmware, there are special functions you can do. So if I were to hold the PlayStation button, the home button, you can see that the controller deregisters, and while holding the home button, I'm going to hit the square button and then release. And now instead of being registered as a Dreamcast controller, it's registered as a PlayStation controller, which gives me full access to everything here. So I got my dual analog sticks, full range of L's and R's. L1 and R2 are registered to the Z and the C, which is for arcade sticks. And all the buttons. I even have access to the select button, which is registered as D. I'm not quite sure what that does, but it is there. So if you look at the Dreamcast controller, normally you have the L stick here, and then the R stick activates the D-pad. That's with the regular Dreamcast controller. Now the other option is with the home button, I can hit triangle instead, and now it's in twin stick mode. And twin stick mode is let's see, L here, and then the deep, and then it's replicated here with the face buttons being relegated to the shoulder buttons. It's just a separate mode. I think there are a few games which use twin stick style. I know this twin stick style was basically designed for Unreal Tournament. I don't play Unreal Tournament. I don't quite understand how that works, but apparently it is a thing. And then, of course, you can go back with the home button and X to go back to Dreamcast controller mode. But let's unplug this for now. And instead, I'm going to plug in a arcade stick. So I have back to camera, I've got an arcade stick here. And when we look at the console buttons, you can see the arcade stick layout is a bit different. Instead of X, Y, A, B, it's X, Y, Z, A, B, C. So see we got there. ABC, XYZ, or ABC, XYZ, and then the fourth row of buttons are all three, your triple buttons for supers and whatnot if you're playing something like Street Fighter or anything like that. And everything else functions as an arcade stick. Now there is one more mode, which is nice. We're going to unplug this. And I'm going to plug in a Logitech Bolt receiver. Logitech Bolt receiver. And then I'm going to turn on my keyboard. And now I have a Logitech keyboard plugged in, and you can see it reads as a keyboard. So if you're playing Phantasy Star Online or any of those online games, Choo Choo Rocket, or even using the Dreamcast web browser, because I know there is a big community that's focusing on reinstating online features for Dreamcast games, you've got keyboard support right here. Now, I have not been able to get mouse support working yet, but like I said, Megavolt85 is fantastic. He's been doing a lot of things to make sure that the firmware is up to date and always working. So hopefully that will be worked out sometime in the future. Now there are mice that work with the adapter, but I don't have any of them. I only have the Logitech unifying receiver. I'm sorry, that was the Logitech unifying receiver, not the Logitech Bolt. Logitech Bolt doesn't quite work yet. Hopefully that will come in the future as well. But okay, so now I want to talk about how to update the firmware, because we're talking about a lot about how firmware updates add more compatibility to more modern controllers. So updating the firmware is very easy. If we take the small controller, it's simple. You just take your USB cable and you plug it in right there. And then the other half of your USB cable, you plug into your computer. But while you're plugging into your computer, you need to be holding down the boot button. Now, the boot button is signified by the plus button on the adapter. The minus button is a simple reset access button. You shouldn't ever really need to use that. It's easier just to unplug the controller from the console and then plug it back in, but it's there. So while you're plugging into your computer, press and hold the plus button and then plug it into your computer. Now, I'm not going to do that right now, but that is how it's done. Now, the big one is a bit more complicated. You cannot simply plug into the USB port in the front, nor can you plug into the USB port in the back. The USB port in the back is simple secondary access to the built-in USB hub. Now, if you need to supply additional voltage to the hub for some reason, I haven't found anything you need to use it for, but let's say you needed to. For instance, you've got a butt kicker installed on your chair or something, and that needs extraneous power, and you don't have that for some reason. Maybe that'll help. I don't know. I just made the port accessible there just in case you need it. Or if you don't have a SD card reader for your computer, you can plug it into your computer that way and access your SD card on your computer without having to use an external SD card reader. That's another reason to have it. But to access the firmware update port, you actually have to open this up. Now, if you have a older version of this adapter that you've already bought, it's going to be a bit harder to do what I'm going to show you here, but the whole methods are pretty much exactly the same. You just need to do a bit more finger gymnastics to keep it all together. I've done several updates. This is like my 20th redesign of the adapter, but I've done several internal changes to the inside to make it easier to do what I'm going to show you. But the older versions, like I said, finger gymnastics. What you need to do is turn it over, and you'll see there's 4 screws. You do not need to unscrew these 2 on top. These 2 on top are for the strain relief on the cable. I've made it so that you shouldn't generally need to undo the strain relief. All you would need to do is unscrew these 2 bottom ones. Now on another adapter, I've already done that. So these are already unscrewed. Let's just take those bolts out. There we go. And now we need to very carefully separate the 2 halves. Like on the older version, it'll be 3 pieces, which is why you need to do a bit more finger gymnastics. But the process is pretty much the same. You're going to very carefully separate the 2 halves. No, you don't need to pull that off. And as you're separating the 2 halves, you'll see it'll open up like a sandwich where you can see inside. Now, this little red piece in here may fall out, so you can just pull it out and pull it to the side for now. This red piece is basically the cover for the ports to make sure that the ports stay in place. You will need to remember to put this back in afterwards. Now, the internal USB port is actually right here. And you can see there's something already plugged into it. That's the USB hub. You need to unplug the USB hub because that's the port we need to get access to. Now, if you got small fingers, you'd be able to do it by hand. I don't. I'm still a little bit overweight, so I can't do that. So I'm going to use a pair of pliers. Now, again, do this very carefully. This is electronics, and you don't want to break anything. And you don't want to yank too hard because there are cables in there. But you're going to very carefully wiggle that USB port out. And you can see I have now removed it. Now, you can see that the USB-C port is right there. That's what we're going to be plugging into. And let's take my USB-C cable. And like with the old one, you need to be holding down the boot button while you plug it in. So I'm going to hold down this boot button and plug it into my computer. And I don't know if you heard the beep from my computer right there. That's saying it read it. And now let's head to my computer. All right. So I've got my computer screen right here, and you can see that the USB4Maple.wikidot.com, this is the website you're going to go to get the most recent firmware. This is on this page, you can see a full list of confirmed working controllers, arcade sticks, joysticks, keyboards, and even mice and racing wheels. But towards the middle of it, you will see firmware. Now just click to download the latest version. If you want, you can even go to the GitHub and change the firmware yourself and build it yourself, but I'm not going to get into that. So I'm just going to click the latest firmware, and that's going to be a zip file. I'm going to click keep and open this up, and you're going to see inside of it is a UF2 file. This is the firmware software. But because I was holding the boot button when I plugged the device into the computer, a new drive was added to my computer called the RPI-RP2. This is basically the Raspberry Pi that's in this that is running the entire system. And because I was holding boot, it's in firmware flash mode. And I'm just going to take this UF2 and I'm going to drag and drop it into the drive. There we go. It's been updated. And you can see that the drive has been removed from my computer because it automatically reset. It is no longer in flash update mode. It is now in regular normal mode, and we can unplug it. But that's it. Now the firmware has been updated. And that's it. Now it's ready to go with the newest firmware. You can plug it back into your console and everything is done. And that's all it is. Very easy. And now this complicated big one, you need to put back together. It's very simple. Once again, you plug the USB port back in. You sandwich the two halves back together, remembering to put this back in. And very carefully slide the two halves back together, making sure not to pinch any wires or pinch the USB port in the front. So you need to make sure that the USB port is not being pinched by the red cover, and just slide it back together. There we go. Not pinched. Then screw the two bolts back together and screw them down, and everything's back together. And put your USB drive back in. I forgot to do that. Make sure to unplug everything from the device when you are separating it. And that's all. Now, like I said, everything is on my Etsy shop. So there we go. This is my Etsy shop. You can head to the video game section, and I've got my Dreamcast stuff right here. It's the two devices, the basic one and the plus one. It's right there. URL is Ultra Jaxel. And that's it. While I'm at it, let me advertise my Twitch stream. I don't stream often. I'm also on Kick, but I don't stream often. But when I stream, I stream. You know, when a streamer streams, they stream. Anyways, peace out. Bye-bye.